Welcome to the 12 Days of Edition Wars. In this year's series, we will be taking a deep dive into the iconic monsters of D&D. On the fourth day of Edition Wars, my DM gave to me 4 Mind Flayer tentacles. Yeah, and a Psychic Blast.
Woo!
And my co-host, Sam Dillon.
All right. I'm the fifth tentacle. Wait, that doesn't sound right. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like being the fifth Beatle.
Yeah,
Sorry, bud.
whatever. You comparing me to Yoko Ono? Oh no, wait, that was different. Okay, so Mind Flayers, yeah. Oof. So as is our habit, I'm gonna start by covering the sort of older editions worth of Mind Flayer goodness, and then Brandis can sort of work his way in around second edition and then take care of the later editions. So uh all the other creatures that we've covered so far have been in the game from the earliest edition, and they've been basically represented in every edition in some way. And the Mind Flayers or Illithids are different in a way from that. So that's going to become obvious really, really quickly. So the first place that we find Mind Flayers is in original D&D in, not the original 3 books, but there was a supplement number 6, which was Eldritch Wizardry. And in Eldritch Wizardry, we learn about the Mind Flayers. And we learn that they have on page 17. So I love needling you about the organization of these books. So on page 17, there is a table with creatures, and this is actually the same table that we used to talk about the demons that we talked about on the second day of Christmas, right? We talked about type 6 demons, and I had to go to this book to get the demon information at the beginning because it's not in the actual original game. It's in supplement 6, right? Well,
That's right.
Mind Flayers are also in supplement 6. We learn 4 tentacles, and their points per attack, it just says special. And so we have to go to the actual description of them. So this was page 17. Okay, I'll show you the bottom of page 12. It's page 17 in my PDF, but it's page 12. And to get to the actual description, we have to go all the way to page 39.
Sure.
Because, that makes all kinds of sense.
Nailed
And
it.
here's what it says. It says Mind Flayers. They are super intelligent. Now remember, this is the first description of this creature in the game, okay? They are super intelligent, man-shaped creatures of great evil, and it points out they're lawful evil, not chaotic. Their heads most resemble a small octopus with 4 tentacles, which are used to strike their prey. If a tentacle hits, it penetrates into the brain, where it quickly curls around and draws it forth for food. It requires from 1 to 4 turns for the tentacle to reach the brain. So once you get hit, you're going to roll a d4, and you're going to figure out how many rounds it's going to take, or how many turns, sorry, it's going to take to get you into the brain. And then it says as soon as it reaches the brain, the victim is dead.
I would just
The
like to
mind,
point out, for starters, it does not resemble a small octopus. It resembles a small quartopus. Not an
yes,
octopus.
you are correct. Yes, but I was reading what it says. You are right.
I know that.
It says the Mind Flayer will immediately retreat if an encounter is going against it. That comes, I think, from that super intelligence. It's trying to tell you it's not in it to get your brain and it's going to die trying. It's in it to get a quick, easy meal, and if things go bad, it's going to run away because your brain is not important enough for it to die for. Although that's all my conjecture, right? That's all what
Yeah.
I'm telling
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
That's the idea you're supposed to get from this, right? That's not in the text. In the text, it says, although non-magical, these monsters are 90% magic resistant. They are psionically endowed, having from 5 to 8 abilities. Their only attack form psionically is the Mind Blast, with a 6-inch directional range, which is actually, that's 60 feet, right? And a 5-foot radius. All
I,
within this radius.
I
Go ahead.
Man, mixing feet, mixing inches and feet in that
Yeah,
one
yeah,
line
yeah. Right.
is awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is
It,
awful.
it's Yeah, it's real clunky. But if you were by the time you get to book six, if you're used to running creatures in OD&D like that, it just like rolls off your back. Like it's not
It
even an
it
issue,
just would
right?
have been so easy to say, and a 1 inch radius,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
Or a 30-foot directional range. Either
Right.
one, but
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
shift.
No, I know.
And
But
mm,
yeah, I know, but they do that, right? Because if you're using miniatures, if you're using miniature combat rules, right? Like the actual inches is the
right.
inches on the actual
I
ruler,
I
right? Whereas
understand why they use.
the five
Uh-huh.
foot is not. So yeah, it's super clunky. I totally
Yeah.
agree. It's real clunky. It's real bad, right? But let's keep going.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
please.
so anything within this radius is affected by the attack. Mind Flayers have several defense modes, 1 to 4, and a total psionic strength of 241 to 340. They speak their own arcane language and several other strange tongues, purportedly those of terrible races which inhabit regions far beneath the ground. Okay. Now, what it's talking about with this, I don't necessarily want to have a whole conversation about psionics in zero in original D&D, right? And I was
Mhm.
going to say in Zero Edition. I don't necessarily want to have that. But just to say, having 5 to 8 abilities and a 241 to 340 range on your psionic strength, these are badass.
Yeah,
This is
that's
not
huge.
something, yeah, you're not gonna like run into this and oops, accidentally it might touch you and possibly have a chance of hurting you or stealing your brain. It's like you see these things and you're kind of screwed because
Yep.
they are that powerful, which is it's supposed to be super duper scary. It's supposed to be something on the level of a demon, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
in original D&D, when you run into that, I mean, we talked about, type 6 demons, but pretty much any demon, if you run into that thing and you're in original D&D, like you have to have some alternative plan. You're going to be totally screwed. And mind flayers are very similar. They are extremely super duper powerful.
Yeah.
Super duper
Um,
powerful.
so looking at this from a later context, right,
Hmm.
which is the whole of my context, the main thing that I see, like, since there's no attached art, is okay, the core combat loop and most important combat powers
Hmm.
are established and they're never going to go anywhere, right?
Right.
This combat loop is going to get some math massaging and otherwise survive into 2024 revision rules, basically unchanged. The
Yeah.
big change
Yeah.
is just like defining their aesthetic into something really specific. That's that's not here. Like their body, yes, their style of dress, which is going to become something really consistent, isn't
Hmm.
here yet,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
also the big thing missing is the depth of the lore, right? Which
Right.
is going to accrue over the next 5 decades.
Right. Well, and so these things don't really catch fire in terms of excitement and being used a lot at first. And I only say that because next I'm going to show you the entry in Holmes Basic.
Sure,
Oh no, I'm not. There is no Holmes Basic entry.
sure.
Okay, let's go to BX. Oh no, there's no BX entry.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Let's go to BECME. Oh wait, there's no
Well,
BECME. There's no basic D&D version of this, which makes sense, especially for Holmes, because Holmes was, remember, you're really supposed to do levels 1 to 3 and then switch to AD&D. And there is an AD&D version. So it makes sense that there's no Mind Flayer in Holmes because your first, second, or third level PC is not going to be meeting a Mind Flayer in Holmes Basic, right? Same with BX, which goes up to level 14. You're not going to be probably meeting a Mind Flayer, although theoretically you could. But that's just, it was a different kind of game. BECME, you go up to level 36, but by then it's a whole different setting, right? So they did not have Mind Flayers in that edition of the game, which means we have to jump all the way from 1977, Eldritch, the Eldritch Wizardry supplement, all the way to first edition AD&D to get the next version of the Mind Flayer because they skipped everything else. Now, I think there was, I'm pretty sure I didn't pull it up. but I think there was a Dragon magazine, Ecology of the Mind Flayer, at some point. I know
Undoubtedly.
there have been several issues of Dragon magazine that have had different things regarding mind flayers or illithids in them, but none of them, they were all later stage, right? So not in the first 5 years, basically.
Yeah.
So let's actually then hop to the Monster Manual entry. This is in the first edition AD&D Monster Manual,
Yep.
and it is on page 70. And it now has an image. And so let's take a look at that image, because, as Brandis pointed out, there was really no image in the in the Eldritch Wizardry book. There are a few sketches. Remember, we talked about the pictures of the demons in there, the drawings of the demons. There is nothing for the Mind Flayer. So this is the first sort of view that we get of a Mind Flayer. And it is a bipedal humanoid form. They do have sort of long curled fingers with sharp nails. Uh, the individual that's in the drawing is wearing robes that there's like a skull hanging off of the robe. There's almost a spider webby kind of pseudo like superhero kind of patterning on the front of the robe.
Yeah, there's a lot
Uh,
of room to interpret what that's showing you,
Yeah, a lot
right?
of room. Like who knows what that even is, right? The although one thing that's on this robe that does sort of remain for all the aesthetic for all the future editions is there's a very high collar on
Uh-huh.
this particular robe, and that stays through. And I think that's I can't remember. It was very common in science fiction that or in fantasy movies and shows that the big evil mastermind would have some kind of clothing that had a very large, sort of collar type thing sticking up
Yeah.
behind that, like
Yeah.
it's just a kind of visual idea showing you, oh yes, this person is so brilliant and so smart and so big brained that they have to have a huge collar to contain the whole brain.
I assume
Um,
they were too good for peripheral vision.
there you go. Yeah, right. Well, speaking of vision, this thing has kind of an octopus shaped head with four thin tentacles, not eight, but the shape of the head is more like the octopus's mantle,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And and it has big eyes though with eyelids, which is kind of weird because octopus don't really have that way. They don't. Well, they kind of do, but not really. Um, so that's what it is. So this is the very first sort of view that we get of it, and it's actually it stays pretty consistent from here
Yeah.
on out.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking at the second ed monstrous manual art right now,
Hmm.
and like, okay, there's some
Yeah,
good development happening, but
yeah.
it's really clearly coming
It's
from
it's
that
very
root.
similar.
Like
Yep.
the
Yeah.
skull is present,
Hmm. Right.
the general concept of the robes is there, the number of
Yep.
fingers is consistent,
Right. Yep.
right?
Yep.
Um,
Yep. Yeah, so that's what we get. So let's take a look at the stats then, and we'll quickly move to second edition as well. Frequency rare, number appearing 1 to 4. That's actually the same as what was in OD&D. Armor
uh-huh.
class 5, movement 12. It's very high movement. Hit dice 8+4. It was 8+3, I think, in original D&D. Uh, Treasure types, number of attacks 4, damage per attack 2 each, which is different because I think in Eldritch Wizardry it didn't actually do damage unless you did a Mind Blast, but the Mind Blast was different from because the tentacles are just to pull your brain out, right? So it's basically if it hits, it penetrates to the brain where it curls around it and draws it out, and you die. So there's no damage because it just kills you, right? Now the
Yeah.
Mind Blast does damage, but that's not the tentacle attack on your brain. So that's a different thing. Here you get damage per attack 2 each. Special attack Mind Blast, so it retains the Mind Blast, retains the 90% magic resistance. Intelligence is still genius level, and psionic ability is still the same. So here's where we get a little bit of expanded sort of lore. It says they're found only in subterranean places. They detest sunlight. They're greatly evil, and they consider the bulk of humanity and any related species as cattle to feed upon. The Mind Flayer's physical attack is by striking a victim with its four tentacles. If a tentacle hits, it will reach the opponent's brain in 1 to 4 melee rounds, and draw it forth, immediately killing the creature. So there's a difference there. 1 to 4 melee rounds, and in Eldritch Wizardry, it was 1 to 4 turns.
I gotta think in that 1 to 4 turns thing, either like we're gonna stun the whole party and just go through them over the course of an hour,
Right,
right?
right. Yeah, yeah. We're gonna mind blast them, and then as they're stunned and unable to do anything, we're just gonna go eat their brains. Is
Right.
basically what's happening
Or,
there.
or
Right,
this is like now there's a timer on do we recover from the mind blast, or do we have some people who can burn this thing down in
right,
the 1 to 4 rounds?
right,
And, maybe that's a lot of
right.
damage
Yeah,
you need to
yeah, yeah,
inflict in
yeah.
this edition.
Yeah. It says the Mind Flayer then devours the brain. Its more feared attack mode, however, is the Mind Blast of psionic power, all within a 6-inch directional cone of 1/2 diameter. So 1/2 inch. So they fixed the 5 foot thing. They're now
Right.
using the 1/2 inch diameter, right? But they're still using the inches, that's just first edition, like whatever. It's
No,
fine.
I get it.
It's the same time, or the same distance, the same size. At the point of emanation and a 2-inch diameter at the extreme range are affected. And it tells you that they're affected psionic and non-psionic because in psionics in first edition, if there was if the victim was also psionic, also had psionic powers, there was a different kind of defense structure than if the person did not have psionic power. So this is telling you that this particular mind blast can affect those with psionic ability and also those without. That's not true of every power, by the way, which is why they have to spell it out here. Again, I don't want to necessarily have a whole giant conversation about psionics in first edition, but it gets all complicated. You look up on a table, it does all these weird things, but it matters whether the victim is psionic or non-psionic themselves. The Mind Flayer has the following psionic abilities: levitation, domination, ESP, body equilibrium, astral projection, probability travel, and they perform these powers at a 7th level of mastery. If an encounter is going against a Mind Flayer, it will immediately flee, seeking to save itself regardless of its fellows or its treasure. Again, that's that genius level. I have to save myself. I'm more important. My life is more important than anything else. These monsters speak only their own arcane language and several other weird tongues, purportedly those of terrible races of things which dwell in regions of the subterranean world far deeper than mankind has ever ventured. It is also rumored that these monsters have a city somewhere deep beneath the earth. Description: the Mind Flayer's skin glistens with slime. Its skin color is a nauseous mauve. Its tentacles are purplish black. A Mind Flayer's eyes are dead white, no pupil being evident. The 3 long fingers of each hand are reddish, but the hands are mauve. So, and then there's a nice image looking. They're in someone's parlor with a little heating table behind with some art on the wall, and the Mind Flayer has come in and is mind blasting the party, which is frozen. So there you go. So that and that lore and that description and those psionic abilities, again, you know, this is going to stay very similar across editions, right? And this is really almost exactly the same as what's in Eldritch Wizardry, with a few tiny little, extrapolations in there, okay? Which isn't that rare, right? Like that's kind of the pattern that we've seen for all the creatures that we've talked about so far. There's sort of this initial, representation of the stats and the creature, and then in the basic editions, the 3 basic editions that we look at, though they generally, if there's a question about some power or some attack or something that creature does, it's maybe spelled out a little more clearly there. And of course that doesn't happen here for the Mind Flayer because that the Mind Flayer does not exist in those editions. But it does spell it out in first edition. It kind of makes clear exactly what's happening, and then we move to second edition, and what you're going to see is very similar kind of information, right? Uh,
Yeah.
the frequency is rare. They're carnivore. They eat brains. They're genius level intelligence. They're lawful evil. Number appearing is 1 to 4. Armor class is 5. Like literally everything is the same as in first edition, right? Um, and then, of course, but remember, in the Monstrous Manual, in second edition, they gave a huge amount of, lore and combat discussion and psionic notes and the ecology and everything for Mind Flayers. And so that's where this really sort of expands out into, you know, some really good embellishment of what we learned in the other two listings of this creature. Did you ever use Mind Flayers in second edition?
Uh, I feel like I might have used them like one time, but the things I was sort of prepared to run in second ed, uh, let's say I had not yet turned into the GM that I aspire to be today.
Mhm.
Uh, I still haven't become the GM I aspire to be, but you know what? Conversation for a different time. Um, but
Perhaps that'll be next year's Edition Wars 12
yeah,
days.
so man, like the second ed mind flayer is so interesting. Um, in that this is where we really see the introduction of what is going to be a huge piece of later lore. This is the
Hmm.
moment because this is the arcane psionic split,
Hmm.
right? Um, like this is the origin moment in terms of lore writing, as far as we've seen in these books. There may have been a text somewhere that introduced the idea before now, but
Hmm.
this is the moment where we see, okay, the psionic mind flayers regard the arcane magic using mind flayers as not real illithids, and maybe
Hmm.
even as like heretics. Um, to be clear,
And
that's the main plot of my Wednesday night game,
okay,
right?
nice. Yeah,
Dealing with mind
yeah.
flayers and an elder brain who are heretics and use arcane magic.
Okay. So, and I'll point out that as we said, there were many like Dragon Magazine articles and whatnot that featured mind flayers of some flavor or something, right? We're not covering any of those, but I will point out that in the core sort of rules, this is the first time that we see the mind flayer also referred to as an illithid.
Mm.
And because it does not mention illithids in first edition in the monster manual or in Eldritch Wizardry. It does not call them that. It only calls them mind flayers. And the thing is too that remember second edition had that arcane Monstrous Arcana series, right?
Yeah.
And the Monstrous Arcana series, there was one that focused on beholders, and then you had like a three adventure series for beholders, and then there was one that was on Sahuagin, I think, and then you had the three adventure. Then there was an Illithid one, and I think there was one other that I can't remember what it was about. But that's so it was it had a lot of expansion in this edition, right? Because it had its own actual separate set of a book and adventure series. But this particular entry was published before that, right? And we're not really covering those other like I'm not covering those, right? We're only covering what's in the main sort of core here. But it's still greatly expanded, and it does talk about the similar things about eating the brain. It talks about they do have infravision, and it says the mind blast. It's got the same size mind blast, 60 feet long, 5 feet wide, 20 feet wide at the opposite end. You get a save in second edition. Doesn't mention saves in first or in zero in original. Um,
That wouldn't be built into the Mind Blast attack mode.
in Eldritch Wizardry, it assumes that the Mind Blast it's just using it as the psionic power, and there's no save against that. You have to
Oh,
use
okay.
psionic defense.
Uh,
Yeah, it becomes a psionic
yeah,
defense
I
issue.
don't know
Yeah,
the baseline rules for psionic attack
yeah,
against non-psion off the dome. That'd be a great
yeah,
series sometime. Just
yeah,
really
yeah.
rolling
Deep,
around in some
deep, deep
psionics.
dive into psionics. Yeah, whew, that would be maybe more than 12 days. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
so it describes this thing eating brains and whatnot, and then it says Mind Flayer can also use the following arcane powers once per round as a seventh level mage. Suggestion, Charm Person, Charm Monster, ESP, Levitate, Astral Projection, and Plane Shift. And then it tells you, just like in all the other editions so far, if an encounter is going against it, it flees. It saves itself above all else, right?
Yep.
They hate sunlight. They live. Here's where it sort of starts to expand the lore even more. They live in underground cities of 200 to 2,000 illithids, plus at least 2 slaves per illithid. So they're nasty, nasty slavers.
Yep.
All the slaves, it actually mentions that it keeps some of their victims as slaves and feeds on the brains of the others up in the paragraph above. But so they all the slaves are under the effects of a charm person or charm monster spell, and they obey their illithid masters without question. We'll see the evolution of that as we keep going, because you're going to now get sort of thralls that come in and are going to basically be the slaves of these creatures, but you're going to have to deal with them, right? There's an elder brain at the center of the community, lives in a pool of briny fluid. Due to the mental powers of illithids, the elder brain is still sentient, and the telepathic union of its brains rules the community. So it's this sort of hive mind in a way, because the elder brain has telepathic range of 2 to 5 miles, and so it basically can talk to any individual in its town, when it wants to. There's no family structure. Their social I've always found this funny. Their social activities include eating, communicating with the elder brain, and debating on the best tactics to conquer the Underdark. So that's what they do with all their time, right?
Do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. That's what
That's
I
right.
say.
Yes, exactly. And then it points out, as it did before, they are arrogant, viewing all other species only as cattle to be fed upon. They prefer to eat the brains of thinking creatures, even though they look down upon all thinking creatures and they consider them beneath them, but they still prefer ones that have high intellect, right? That is something that it gets sort of expounded upon later on as well. They live about 125 years. They're warm-blooded amphibians. They spend the first 10 years of life as tadpoles, swimming in the elder brain pool until they either die or they grow into adult illithids. On an irregular basis, adult illithids feed brains to the tadpoles, which do not molest the elder brain. Illithids are hermaphroditic. Each can produce 1 tadpole twice in its life.
Hmm.
Mind Flayer Ichor is an effective ingredient in a potion of ESP. Then it tells us psionic flayers considered to the only true illithids, and this is what you were talking about. Here's where you get that arcane psionic split.
That's right.
Psionic flayers are considered the only true illithids by some, including themselves, and they have most of the same statistics and abilities as other mind flayers. Instead of magic-based abilities, however, theirs are purely psionic. Psionic mind flayers have a beak-like mouth and disdain the stiff collared robes preferred by their cousins. Now that's an interesting thing. That is
Yeah.
an interesting thing there, because I think the art puts the lie to that statement in all future entries.
Yeah.
But here's their psionics. In second edition, they are level 10 psionicists. They have power points 1d100 plus 250, so you still get that roughly 240 to 3 something. You're getting that same kind of spread. They use psionics for attack, mind control, and travel. They have at least the following powers: psychokinesis, body control, and levitation. They have psychometabolism, body equilibrium. They have psychoportation, probability travel, teleport, and astral projection. And they have telepathy, dominion, mind link, and awe, contact, ESP, ego whip, id insinuation, and post-hypnotic suggestion.
So I love the range of powers that this involves.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Right.
the lookup density on this is crazy, right? I can tell you
Yeah.
off the
Yeah.
dome what about 3 of those do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
because they're you know, essentially identical
To
to
spells.
spells, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, like they're really interesting. Um,
Yeah.
for all of the things I don't love about second ed psionics, man, being interesting was not a problem it had. It was good at that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like there's so much great support for like uh interesting visuals in encountering one just
Mm-hmm.
on levitation and control body and
Right.
like some probability travel. That's
Yeah.
there's some wild possibilities there.
Right.
And then a bunch of the telepathy stuff, you can see how they get to like enslavement level mind control. Pretty easy.
Right.
It's right
Right.
there. Um,
Well, here's what's interesting too, though. The Mind Blast is not part of the psionic power list in
that's
second
right.
edition.
That's right. It's
It's its
universal
own,
across. Yeah.
yeah, it's its own fancy action spell-like ability, if you will,
Yeah.
that Mind Flayers have. Whether they're arcane or psionic Mind Flayers, it doesn't matter. They all have Mind Blast.
Right.
Whereas, in first edition, Mind Blast, that's a psionic ability. And in original edition, Mind Blast is a psionic based ability. That
Right.
they're now granted it's their own special ability called Mind Blast, which other creatures don't have access to, but it's still under the same psionics rules. And here it's distinctly separate from the actual psionics rules of second edition.
Yeah. I mean, it does suffer from being crazy OP. Like,
Oh yeah,
oh my
sure. Yeah.
Lord, it would be so
Right,
OP
right.
in player
Yes.
hands.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um,
Right. No, no. And yeah, but I just think it's very interesting how second edition fully expanded on this entire lore and ecology and everything, including all the idea of psionic illithids being the
yeah.
true, the true flayers and all that stuff. But then the Mind Blast, which all Mind Flayers have, it has nothing to do with psionics anymore.
So a couple of things, a couple more things about this. One, psionic illithids give you less XP for beating them than arcane illithids. Uh,
Interesting.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
2000,
look at
2000
that.
less.
XP. Yeah, wow.
Uh,
Huh.
and that's kind of wild because there's enough psionic powers going on that you'd expect it to be worth a little more. And
Hmm.
uh, I'm not sure which spell they're regarding as being better, except that I guess they have unlimited use of all of those spells,
Yeah,
just one per round. So that's completely insane.
right.
That is
Yeah.
banana pants crazy.
And all the saves are at a -4.
Like, yeah, that's really really good.
Yeah.
Um, like the psionic illithid though has 250 plus 1d100 PSPs. Get out of here. That is so much juice. That is
Right.
so much
Yeah,
juice.
yeah. It's a huge amount. And that's the thing is these things. So one of the striking things about these creatures is so far we've looked at three iterations of them, the only three in existence at that point, right? In core rules. And they are badass the entire there is nothing nerfed about them at all, even though it
Yeah,
sort of splits them into this arcane versus psionic, and even though it's giving a different XP value, right? I
yeah.
suspect that the reason it's giving the XP value is because um yeah, I know. I don't know. I don't know how if that would actually count for that much in second
It's
edition.
hard to know.
But
It's hard to know.
yeah, it's a like I was thinking, well, it does talk a lot and it really develops in this edition about their about, them having charmed so many creatures, right? And those charmed creatures become slave-like, right? Or actual slaves, not even slave-like. And so like that takes a lot of power, and so you have to have a lot of arcane power to maintain a charm on hundreds of creatures, um, as a body as a population of illithids, I mean. So that's a huge amount of arcane power, and they kind of have unlimited spells. Like, who has unlimited plane shift and astral projection? Like
Right?
that's amazing, right?
That's
So
wild.
yeah, that's
And
crazy.
yeah. So another big thing that I took away from this is that um, this lore section doesn't even get into which specific species you should look to as the ones they've oppressed, right?
Right,
But
right,
the illithids are super important to the children of Gith, the
right.
Githyanki and the Githzerai, and
Yep,
so on. And so that's kind of wild, right?
yep.
Um, that like somebody else's whole write-up explains what the illithids did, but just reading the illithids, like, yeah, they're bad, they're slavers, but to know what in specific, okay, now
Right.
look,
I'm looking. I'm gonna actually look up the Gith in the Fiend Folio, and
yeah,
see what it says.
Yeah, I am looking at the
Here we
Githyanki and the
go.
Monstrous Manual
Yeah.
of 2E right
So,
now.
but I wanted to go back to first edition to see what it,
Oh
because
yeah.
that's see what it says. It
Well,
says millennia ago, the Mind Flayers, see Mind Flayer in the AD&D Monster Manual, conquered a race of evil humans and bound them to service, usually employing them as slaves, but from time to time selecting particularly choice victims for food. The humans harbored deep resentment for centuries, but could not summon up sufficient strength to free themselves from the Mind Flayer yoke. Gradually, in secret, they developed their powers and strength. Then, under the leadership of the supreme leader Gith, they rebelled against their captors and, after a long and vicious struggle, succeeded in gaining their autonomy. From that moment, the race became known as the Githyanki, and they quickly gained a reputation as powerful psionicists and deadly fighters with an instinct for violence. The Githyanki now dwell in the astral plane. Okay, so,
yeah.
does it say anything more about?
It's not going to say too much more about
No, not
um,
about mind flayers.
Mind
So,
Flayers, right?
yeah.
But
Interesting.
I mean that entry by Charles Stross,
Hmm.
uh, you know, the now very famous science fiction writer Charles Stross,
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
is just the origin point for some of my very favorite D&D lore.
Right, right.
Since we've been talking about the art, I want to
Hmm.
call out that it is a Dieter Lisi, I believe. See a little
Oh,
T
is it?
down
Oh,
in the corner
interesting.
there, and I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that's my man Tony Dieter Lisi.
I find the so the second edition art.
It's all over the
Let me go
place,
back to
right?
it.
Okay,
Um.
I need to say that's the Dark Sun Gith and doesn't have many
Yeah.
points in
Yeah.
common with the Children of Gith, the Githyanki and the
Right.
Githzerai, or even the
Yeah.
Pirate Gith,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Here's the Githyanki. Yeah. Yeah. Does it say anything in here?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Second page.
Oh, is oh yeah. I see. Oh
They
yeah.
get
Oh yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
much
Okay.
lore,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. They get a lot of lore. Yep. Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
so it is funny though that the entry doesn't say, "Hey, by the way, look at the
yeah,
Githyanki entry."
yeah. Well, and it's not even that they're the only ones that like are oppressed by the Illithids that way. Um,
Right.
okay, my last thing about the Illithids,
Hmm.
and this is just like me where I was in about 93 when I was reading
Hmm.
this book for the first time. 'Cause that's when I first got into D&D. Um, the other thing that was going on at about that time, and going into 94 and 95, let's not nitpick me here. Um, but I was also getting into Magic the Gathering,
Okay.
and Fallen Empires had come out. So I was reading Illithid, and I am sure my imagination was sort of taking those phonemes along with Thalids
Mm.
from from Fallen
Hmm.
Empires, and just I'm not sure what I'm sort of picking up here
Right.
linguistically, but there's kind of a thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, uh, so the point I'm making ultimately is that I love these guys as villains. They're just perfect, like sinister weirdo villains.
Hmm.
Um, they're classic
They're
no guilt kills. You
right.
can order these guys all day and feel great about what you did.
Well, and they're evil geniuses, but they're also self-interested and have goals that are unexplainable to a normal human, right? Like
That's right.
their their goals are so high level in terms of I'm going to take over the Underdark or I'm going to take over the universe, right? Like they're not thinking in the same sphere of influence as a human would be thinking of or as a PC race would be thinking of, right? So they are so alien and foreign, right? And but yet they're also extremely intelligent and they act as such. They don't it's not like, oh, they're geniuses and then they act like bumbling idiots because their goals are so different. Like, no, they're still like very, very, very tough. And
Yeah.
also they don't care about you at all. Right? Like you're just beneath them, you're food.
Yep.
Um, it does actually say here, using arcane powers, it enslaves or destroys its foes, which include such powerful creatures as Drow and Kuatoa. It's really funny that it doesn't include Gith in there.
Yep. Yep.
One last thing about this. I always felt that this art for this Mind Flayer
Hmm.
was very carnival. Like
Okay. Yeah.
to me, it read like it's wearing a top hat and
Yeah.
it has like red and white striped something on like underclothes under its robe. Like it's very like carnival barker, carnival sideshow,
Sure.
but
Sure.
I mean in a sinister way, right? Like more like step right up, come here
Okay.
and test your luck, and if you lose, I'm going to eat your brain, right?
Right. Well, like I have so many questions about Underdark haberdashery after
Right.
seeing
Yes,
this.
exactly.
Like they seriously
Hmm.
have, I guess, slaves that are just focused on making
Making
their standard
scarves.
issue hat, right? And the
Yeah.
scarves, like, and just starching the absolute hell
Right.
out of
Yes,
that
yes.
hat and the collar, right? Just wild.
Yeah. Yeah,
Anyway,
I think it's funny. But it's not that I don't like the art, it's that it's so different. And the thing is, I also appreciate that they made the art different from the standard Underdark fare, right?
yeah, yeah,
Because by this time, the standard Underdark fare was Drow
uh-huh,
and and basically you know uh Lolth inspired spideristic, arachnid based
yeah.
weird art, right?
Well, and this book is also going to give us hook horrors and
Hmm.
some of that
Right.
uh, kind of dinosaur avian weirdness
Hmm.
that they
Hmm.
represent. So, I
Right.
mean,
Right.
this is a great moment for just bringing the weird in
Right.
Underdark stuff.
Right. Right. Okay, so let's move on to third edition if
Let's
you're
do it.
ready for
Yeah,
that.
yeah, 100%.
All right. Now, I want to point out, so I popped this up right on the art, okay? Because here's the art aesthetic here. Still really long, four-fingered hands, sharp claws. Uh, it's got now has robes. They still feature a skull on the robe. Okay, the
Uh-huh.
robes have weird like almost ribbed structures in them. It has
Uh-huh.
its collar back. Okay,
Uh-huh.
um, it's wearing a bracelet that looks like a mandible of a human. It has tentacles that fade from a greenish bluish hue down to like a pinkish mauve tone. Um, the eyes are much more deep set, and the collar is back. The collar has very specific, like it has cutouts in it, right? Which just becomes very like part of the iconic look. And I think that iconic look that gave rise to this also is in the later second edition, like that the whole Illithid Monstrous Arcana book that I was
Yeah.
talking about. Um, and so this sort of is a culmination of this. But I want you to remember this art because
Well,
I'm going to mention this art again after we move on a couple of editions. I'm going to mention this, okay?
suffice to say, I too have opinions about this art, and they amount to uh, they've turned from like this is layered cloth robes
Hmm.
into my man has a weird fetish situation going on,
Right. Yeah.
right? This
Yep.
has this is kind of giving like latex daddy. I'm not I actually don't love this
I
art.
I'm not a huge fan of it. When you look at the way, so like it's showing the arms, they're wrapped really tight instead of
Yeah,
in a more robe-like structure,
right.
and
And the
the
legs make no sense. That
the
would be
legs make no sense.
miserable
But
to move in.
right, but also like that's why I say it's kind of like I used the form fitting. It's kind of like a form fitting robe. It kind of doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah, that's almost
Um,
impossible to actually don.
it's
And
right.
yeah,
Yeah, like how this is like they had to put this poor Illithid in a corset to get this robe on, right? Like it's that bad in terms of
uh,
like how because it's completely form fitting, but yet this creature's like chest and waist don't really make
we need to have a
sense.
talk about the unrealistic body standards
Yes,
that
for
mind
Illithids,
flayers are
I
being held
know,
to. That is
right?
not right.
Right, exactly. Yes, I fully agree. I fully agree. And I also point out, so I mentioned it has like a bracelet with a mandible that looks like a human mandible.
Yeah.
On the other arm, it has like a little bird skull, like tiny bird skull, and like a little mouse skull,
Uh-huh.
which I'm just sort of like, okay, but when was that part of the aesthetic? Because these things are not bottom feeders, right? They're not
Right.
like, ooh, let me look around and try to pull the brain out of a little mouse. They're not, that's not their aesthetic
Right.
previously.
Well, it's hard
So,
to say what that is sort of trying to accomplish
right.
beyond, like, maybe that's supposed to be some kind of magic or psionic item.
I don't know.
Like, it's, yeah,
Yeah,
its purpose in the art is left pretty vague.
yeah, yeah,
Um, it's more just kind of some business to
right.
give you something to look at.
Yeah, it's just embellished art. So let's take a look at the actual block stats. It says Mind Flayer. This strange humanoid-shaped being stands about as tall as a human. Its flesh is rubbery and greenish mauve, glistening with slime. The creature's head looks rather like a four-tentacled octopus, made
Octopus.
all the more horrible by a pair of bloated white eyes. Um, okay, that eyes aren't really in that image. Uh, They are called illithids. They are so insidious, diabolical, and powerful that all denizens of the dark fear them. They bend others to their will and shatter enemy minds. A mind flayer's mouth is a revolting thing shaped like a lamprey's maw, constantly drips an oily slime when it's not siphoning out the brains of living prey. In
I mean,
addition to
strictly
being
speaking,
highly,
it looks like the maw of a star-nosed mole.
yeah, well, well, except, well, and the thing is, like in second edition, the psionic illithids had the beak of like an octopus
Right.
rather than teeth and maw like sharp circular teeth like a lamprey or something.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a
yeah,
weird
so
specificity to that, but
right,
yeah.
yeah. In addition to being highly intelligent, wholly evil, and terribly sadistic, mind flayers are utterly self-serving. Now that's a great sentence because that fully describes them. If
Yeah.
an encounter turns against the creature, it flees at once, caring nothing for the fate of its companions or servitors. A mind flayer is about the same height and weight as a human. It speaks undercommon, but prefers to communicate telepathically. They like to fight from a distance using their psionic abilities, particularly Mind Blast. If pressed into melee combat, a Mind Flayer lashes its enemies with the tentacles ringing its mouth. So Mind Blast says the psionic attack is a cone 60 feet long. Anyone caught in this cone must succeed on a DC 17 will save or be stunned for 3d4 rounds. How bad is stunned in third edition?
I mean, you're absolutely screwed.
Okay, yeah, so really bad.
It's full action denial and advantage on attack. Well, like you're flat-footed against
Yeah,
attacks against you. Um, it's real turbo bad.
okay,
You're totally hosed,
yeah,
and you don't get fresh saves at the end of your turn or anything. That's a 4E innovation, kids.
mm-hmm, right,
Though actually, I think it might show up some in 3.5. I take that
yeah,
back. I think it shows them some in 3.5,
okay,
but not here. It'd have to be specified.
yeah. But
That's super bad.
3d4 rounds, that's a really long time.
That's several fights.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, this is one of those. If this was a late sort of late stage fight with some mind flayers, and your PC just got stunned for 3d4 rounds, and you rolled 4-4-2,
hmm
you're
That's
sitting out that whole battle
oh yeah, that's
if
so
you
long,
survive.
so
Yeah,
long. Um,
that's real rough. Yeah.
and like that, like it's true in earlier editions also, but this
Hmm.
is the epitome of third ed, save or suck.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you're
like,
right. It's true in other editions. The thing is, if the creature sort of slaps its tentacles on your head and you roll 1d4 and you get 4, you've got 4 turns before that thing gets to your brain. If
but that's not
you're
the issue. It's the
if
mind
if
blast
every
that's the issue.
right, but if everybody in your party attacks, the thing is going to leave
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because it doesn't want to lose, right?
Yep.
And you're right, Mind Blast is the issue. Now, if it succeeds on its mind in the other editions, if it succeeds on its Mind Blast on everybody, you're screwed no matter what. You're right. Um, but if it only succeeds on one or two, the rest of your party can probably, if there's only one illithid, the rest of the party can make that thing leave before you end up getting your brain eaten, right? But I don't know how accurate that is, and I don't know how much that carries over in third edition.
Um, hmm. I mean, this does not talk about we'll definitely flee. That's all missing.
Hmm.
Because they just
Well,
don't.
it says
Uh,
it here.
oh, do they say it? Okay.
It says if an encounter turns against the creature, it flees at once,
Okay.
caring nothing for the fate of its
Oh, there you
companions or
go. That's
servitors.
fair. That's fair.
But
Uh,
there's no mechanical a
yeah,
way to express that here. And in third edition, everything had a mechanical expression,
right. And
right?
they do have a really really good escape plan, which is called plane shift.
Right. Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. And so their psionics is at will, charm monster, detect thoughts, levitate, plane shift, suggestion.
And that's
Effective caster
crazy.
level is eighth level.
Yeah. I mean, even having plane shift with an effective caster level of 8 is sort of funny.
Right.
Um, but yeah, like the core loop of what's going on is still about the same. Um, what it takes for it to extract is different,
Hmm.
because now it has to, um, grab with multiple tentacles to extract.
Right.
But if you've been mind blasted, what are you going to do about it?
Right. Yeah. Yep.
It's definitely going to get you if it has 3d4 rounds to attack you at +8 to land all those tentacles, and just, I guess you're done.
Yeah.
Um, and if you had some other, like if it ever got a PC alone, that dude's just dead.
Right. Yeah. 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 Which is actually true in from all the other editions too, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah. So if we actually look at the stats, right?
Yep,
It gives stats for two different types of mind flayers. It gives you the mind flayer, the generic mind flayer, and then it gives you the mind flayer sorcerer.
yep. And it's the,
And
the classic third ed style of you can add class
right.
levels to any goddamn thing.
Right. Right.
Um,
Um, and they're both badass. I'll just say,
yeah, I mean, so
right?
so some features that didn't really call out above. Spell resistance 25 is super strong at CR8. It is
Hmm.
super strong. And then when we go to CR13 for the sorcerer version, I mean, spell resistance 34. Okay.
Right.
I guess you're not casting spells. That's fine. You're just not
Yeah.
like, if
Yeah.
if the spell allows spell resistance, and that's a trait of individual spells to
Right.
to allow or not allow spell resistance. Just, you're not getting
Yeah.
through.
See, that's actually worse than the previous editions. Well, the first
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
original,
It
because
it
in first
doesn't
and
follow
original,
percentile rule. Yeah.
yeah, it was a 90% spell resistance, and it wasn't spell specific. It's just, look, you have a 90% chance your spell is going to fail against this thing, no matter
Yep.
what you're casting.
Yep.
So here it's still badass. Don't get me wrong. It's still look, you're probably not you're going to find another way to defeat this thing rather than cast spells at it, right?
Right. I mean, and there are plenty of ways to contribute to a fight that don't involve, pitching into spell resistance. You can damage the terrain to drop a ceiling on it. That no spell resistance
Hmm.
to that.
Right. Right.
That kind of thing.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and it's got a huge skill list because it's got uh, high intelligence and a lot of hit dice.
Hmm.
Uh, got a bunch of feats. All those hit dice got to go somewhere. Got to generate feats and go somewhere. And can you imagine the just tedium of declaring dodge targets? I guarantee you, most DMs did not remember to do that
Yeah.
while running
Yeah.
the ninth level sorcerer mind flare. Not happening.
Right. I'm just looking to see. Oh, so here's a different piece of art.
Yep.
And this piece of art is different in that the robes are still a little bit form-fitting, but at least you could see it has like, I don't know, some kind of chainmail under it or something.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
weird because it's the sorcerer, but sure,
yeah, this one does show the maw looking more like a lamprey,
it does. Yep.
but otherwise it's very similar to the last one. It talks about its society. It pulls that old that same size, underground city of 200 to 2,000,
Yep.
plus at least two slaves for each. The Elder Brain. It talks about yeah. So it's Mind Flayers' characters. No, thank you.
Hard pass.
Yeah. And so
But
it hews pretty close to the sort of, what do I want to say, the sort of ideal Mind Flayer that has been presented in Eldritch Wizardry and First Edition and Second Edition. It's trying to hew very closely to that.
yep. Yeah, yeah. Like you can see a lot of things that are just sort of emblematic of 3.5 here. Like it has a level adjustment,
Hmm. Yeah.
which again is about, well, what would it take for one of these to be a PC,
Right.
right? How many hit dice am I actually sacrificing to make
Hmm.
one of these a PC? Um, it isn't that you necessarily even want to do that. It's that they were sort of locked into the possibility.
Right.
Um, so I like that they have the round over round tactic situation. I think that's good, and I
Yeah.
like that round four is eat brains.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
simple. You
And
know what you want.
but imagine this though, that round four, that's a very, very good scene, right? Okay. If you're still in a position of strength, you start eating brains. You use charmed foes to guard you. And if you're in a position of weakness, you plane shift away.
Yep.
That's very, very true to the origin description of this creature.
Yeah.
Like that is, they are, you know, it's one of those things where they kind of live in this weird hive mind like society where there's an elder brain who's kind of telepathically talking to all of them, and they sort of are staying together so they can maybe possibly take over the Underdark. But ultimately, these bastards are as selfish as you can get, and they don't care. And they will do whatever they can to succeed at whatever their task is and survive, regardless of anything else, which is very interesting and very true to its original origins.
Yep.
Very interesting.
Um, yeah. I mean, this is nice and solid. I I still like these guys. I don't love the aesthetic of the robe on either piece of art because like a for a robe to kind of fit tight like that doesn't make any sense.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
just I I don't understand what you're even showing me.
Well,
Um,
at that point, so look, you can wear pants or you
uh-huh.
can wear a robe.
Uh-huh.
If you're going to wear pants, you've got things that are clinging to your legs, but that
Uh-huh.
are not connected side to side so you can move around.
Uh-huh.
If you're going to wear a robe, the whole idea is your legs are not trapped within the robe. There's
Right.
a large open area for your legs to be in so you can move around. In
Uh-huh.
this case, in this picture and the previous one, the robes are so form fitting, they're like pants,
Well,
except they're not separated. So you
right.
can't move around.
Well, so there's also a situation of like they've got decorative bones sewn
Hmm.
into it to
Right,
look like sort of the structure of again maybe a corset.
right.
Um, like it's literally boning, but it's on the outside and it's small.
Yeah,
It is like um, so it's like hand bones, right?
right,
It's smaller bones that like provide that structure and give it definition against the knee in the way you absolutely don't want in a robe.
right. Yeah,
Anyway,
it's just really bizarre.
this is
It's
not
it's
actually the Sam and Brandis critique art podcast.
No,
We should
no.
probably
And,
move
and
on.
the thing is, it's very evocative, actually, right? It looks like a really evil kind of creature that is going to mess you up. Like, so
Which it is.
it's not actually bad art in
Yeah,
that respect, right?
yeah,
The problem I have is this implies the only thing this thing does is stand there because it's definitely not moving around.
right. It's
And
not sort of
yeah,
built to be dynamic in that way.
right. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the next thing. The next thing I have is actually still in third edition.
Yeah.
It's Monster Manual 5.
Oh, nice.
Because in Monster Manual 5, they feature the Mind Flayers of Thune. And it really brings the sort of nautiloid idea in here, and it brings the planar traveling,
Hmm.
right? Thune is, an outsider, right? You're talking about, because here's the thing is that these creatures are so wicked and so interesting. Everybody wants to know about their origins. And so there's all these different kind of origin stories that start coming in these different books, right? And so it says the most mind flayers of Thune are identical to the mind flayers described in the monster manual, which is what we were just looking at, but others have been twisted by their time in the far realm. So remember, mind flayers are aberrations. And in somewhat in second edition and in also in third edition, the idea of the far realm started becoming more prominent and more prominent and more prominent. And so this is sort of the okay, what if the mind flayers really, really interacted with the far realm, spent time in the far realm, and got totally screwed over by it? And totally we thought they were weird alien creatures that thought very differently before. Now we're going to expose them for a long period of time to the far realm, and let's see what happens to them, right?
Yep.
And that's kind of
Yep.
what this entry is. And here is the art. So we said we weren't going to critique, we weren't necessarily art critics, right? But
Yeah.
this
I lied.
is a swole
Yeah.
illithid,
That
right?
dude. That dude got them gains.
He is, he has been hitting the gym in the far realm.
Yeah.
Um, and the interesting thing about this is this absolutely ripped illithid has just killed a regular illithid, a non-ripped illithid,
Yeah.
right? And he's dragging him along.
Yes,
Um,
as we know with mind flayers, uh, r- raw brute strength is definitely the
right,
path to power. I
right. And then there's this Thune disciple,
Okay, that's
right?
pretty sick actually. Yeah,
This at least looks badass. It also
it
has
does.
similar problems to, it has no skin on its thorax, like it's just bone and metal stuff. But
Yeah,
it's supposed to be far realmsy and weird, right?
yeah,
So I can kind of excuse it a little bit. I actually can excuse it more than I excuse the swole, you know.
yeah. I mean, there's like arguably sort of a Cronenberg vibe happening here,
Hmm.
and I'm
Yeah,
into that.
yeah,
Like what you want is sort of um, somewhere between Cronenberg and Geiger, and we're more or less there.
yeah.
Um,
And here's the Shadow Flayer, right?
well, that's just Cthulhu.
Yeah. Right. So here's my point. I didn't actually necessarily need to go over all the stats and everything of these, but
Right. Like
my
this isn't going to
idea
carry
here is
forward in the lore very much at all.
right. This is being put forward, and mind flayers as a class of creature that is really interesting and can be much more varied than what you might think of when you look at like the first edition D&D entry. This is where you start getting that a lot. You got it a lot in second edition as well, although in different supplemental books. Now you're getting it where you have multiple, because 3.5 third edition had like 5 monster manuals plus a couple of like you
Yeah.
know uh, books based on the abyss and an undead book, Libris Mortis, and then there was like an aberration book, right? um
I don't know what to tell you, man. I bought a lot of those books.
Yeah, no, I mean they're great, and that's the thing though, is that when you make those books like that, you have to make something interesting and unique in some way, in enough to keep that through line of possibility and relationship to the original creature, but then different enough that so there was a lot going on. Okay, there was a lot going on with illithids, right? With mind flayers, okay? And so I just want to leave that in your brain as we now come to D&D fourth edition, right?
Yeah.
So when we look at the Mind Flayer from the first monster manual in 4E, because 4E also had three monster manuals plus the Monster Vault, which came later. Um, it gives us two flavors of Mind Flayer, and it gives us art that is back to the flowier robes, or more armor-like garb that's not robes but is also pants and not tight robes.
Right. Well,
Um,
like that armored one is doing a soul knife thing. It's kind of super specific that looks soul
right,
knifey,
right,
which is
yeah.
weird.
That's
I'm kind of
that's like
into
the
it.
that's like the shadow. That's partly why I showed this
Yeah.
shadow flare from the other from the 3.5 Monster Manual number 5 is you
Yeah.
get the shadow flare where it's very much like a rogue archetype in terms of its garb, right? It's wearing like leather style armor and wraps instead of, massive clunky heavy armor or huge flowing robes. And that sort of carries through to that particular art in fourth edition. But also we have a more traditional. So in fourth edition, they liked to group the creatures together, and so they would show like three creatures at a time. They did that in some of the third edition books too, but they just didn't happen to do it with the Illithids. So in fourth edition, they did do it with the Illithids, and their entire heads are mauve now instead of the greenish gray that they were in third edition. And all the tentacles are completely mauve, and all of the clothing is black, which sounds kind of traditional. Um, and the one in the back here in the image is wearing the very long, wide flowing robes, and also has the huge like collar crest thing with the holes in it, which harkens back to the very initial arts that we saw in first edition AD&D. And so that's what we get. Now, the actual creature itself, we get two versions of the creature. We get a level 14 lurker called the Mind Flayer Infiltrator, and then we get a level 18 elite controller called the Mind Flayer Mastermind.
Yep.
So the Infiltrator tentacle attacks. It has a power called an attack called Bore into Brain. If it can grab you or stun you, then it can daze you. And if it dazes you and it does the damage at the same time, and if you hit 0 hit points, that means it has eaten your brain and you're dead. So even in fourth edition, which did not actually have a ton of powers that did that,
Yeah.
right? They actually worked that in even to the very initial monster manual. And that's very interesting that they keep that. That's the Mind Flayer shtick, and they did a decent job of putting that into the actual powers. The Mind Blast power that the Infiltrator has, Close Blast 5, so it attacks 5 squares out from you. Plus 18
Yep.
versus will. 2d8 plus 6 psychic damage. The target is dazed. That's when then it can come up to you and start to try to eat your brain. Um, and when you are dazed or stunned, the Mind Flayer is literally invisible to you. So very interesting sort of set of you get a very clear idea of how this thing is meant to approach its enemies and attack you, right?
I mean the fear level of trying to imagine this as your character really adds to the horror of just
Mm-hmm.
okay, it's dazed and then it just flickers out of my sight. Oh my
Right.
God.
Right.
Like, okay, I'm stunned, I can't do anything anyway. But
Yeah.
when it's dazed and you're like, okay, I have a bad problem. Oh no.
Yeah.
Now I can't even target it. This is a bad
Right.
problem.
And like that is really like evocative of okay, yeah, you're dazed and it you can't even perceive that it's there anymore and it's slithering up behind you to devour your brain.
Yep.
Almost like almost like an anesthetic effect. Like it's almost like it puts an anesthetic effect on you so that you don't even know. Kind of like how you often don't know that you got a mosquito bite until the mosquito's already gone and now you're itching because it has a small bit of anesthesia that makes it so that you don't feel the bite.
Yeah.
It's almost like this has that, right? It
Yeah,
has this
like
anesthetic effect almost.
yeah, like I guess I'm just imagining these as like Doctor Who villains.
Right. Yeah, yeah, no, that works too. Yeah. Yep, for sure.
Um, I really like that setup a lot. I think that
Hmm.
uh could stand to get re-explored. Um,
Yeah.
and then you go over to the Mastermind, and it's all the same stuff but more.
But and way worse because now
It's
this one can dominate.
yeah. Well, and like Cradle of the Elder Brain gives it a nice long range teleport.
Right.
Um,
Yep.
like create thrall, interpose thrall. Like, yeah, that guy's a problem.
Yeah.
I respect that.
Yep.
Uh, and like I don't love the psychic static aura just because it's a pain in the ass to remember.
Hmm.
It's a
Yeah.
big aura and a penalty to will defense, but it's hard to remember
Right.
when you're
Yeah.
actually at the table.
Yeah,
Um,
they honestly might as well have just made the just added two to the attack versus will, right? Because their mind blast is
yeah,
versus will. So they just add two to it. Like, don't
yeah,
make me have to worry about the psychic static.
right. Or be like +2 if it's within 10. Oh, fine.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's
Yeah.
very, very much easier to parse that, especially because this is also a very big stat block. So if
It's
you're
yeah,
paying attention to all of this, like you're going to lose something, right?
absolutely.
So yeah.
Uh,
But
but
very good, and very dangerous.
oh yeah, the just interest level here is high.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So what does it tell us about the lore? It says mind flayers use their formidable psychic powers to shatter the minds of their foes. Once their enemies are knocked senseless, the mind flayers crack open the victim's skull and devour their brains. Not all creatures that cross the mind flayers' path end up as food. Some are enslaved, while others are transformed into obedient thralls. Mind flayers, also known as illithids, came to the natural world from the far realm long ago. So now, in 4th edition, they gave them a distinct far realm origin specific.
mhm.
And then it says they're usually encountered in the Underdark, venturing to the surface only on special missions. Um, Lore says they bend others to their will and wield powers that shatter the minds of their foes. They subsist on the devoured brains of intelligent creatures. They are coldly self-serving and think nothing of sacrificing companions or thralls to save themselves. Again, that through line stays all the way. They communicate via telepathy. Um, they're often solitary masterminds who manipulate hosts of weak-willed thralls to do their bidding. Sometimes they gather in small cabals of like-minded individuals. Horrible cities and kingdoms of mind flayers organized around mighty disembodied intellects known as elder brains lurk in the deepest portions of the Underdark. A mind flayer begins life as a small tentacled tadpole-like parasite that invades the skull of a helpless humanoid victim, devours its brain, and then subverts the body to its own use. Within a matter of days, it transforms the body it steals into an adult illithid, and all traces of the creature's former being are permanently extinguished. That is new. Now, I don't know if that is new, whole cloth new for 4th edition, or if some of that, in fact, I'm pretty sure some of that must be in, for example, the Aberrations book from 3rd edition, or one
I
of
think so.
the specific varieties of illithid lore that has been brought up previously. I
Yeah.
don't think that is whole new cloth, absolutely brand new for 4th edition, although it might be.
I mean, even as much of a deep dive as we're trying to do, there's just more D&D than we can cover in a 2 hour
Oh, yeah.
episode.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. Let me take a look at the Aberrations book. Dun, dun, dun. Because Lords of Madness features
Yeah.
an illithid on its cover. So
Yeah.
that's a 3rd edition source book.
This is one of the
And
only remaining third ed books that I still want to pick up
yeah,
and don't have.
it it maintains the horrible close-cropped robe art, I
Yeah.
think.
Well,
Um,
I mean, that's keeping a art style consistent with an edition. Once they committed to it, they just got to commit.
yeah. Yeah, so it talks about ceramorphosis in here,
Yep.
which is, that's how they turn the creature into. Yeah, so that's not all brand new from 4th edition. That's all, the only reason
Right.
I was looking there. But they sort of describe it in a very specific, very clear and concise way here in this lore section, right?
Yep.
So that makes sense. So that's the first monster manual in fourth edition. And then there is the Monster Manual 3 in fourth edition, and it also has a Mind Flayer entry in it. So, for those of you that don't know, the first edition Monster Manual, the math in it wasn't so great. So, when they released the third edition, or when they released Monster Manual number 3, they updated a lot of math and they re-released certain creatures with new kind of abilities in math to make them more challenging for the PCs by that time in the lifespan of fourth edition.
And
And
also
so
just to
we
give you
get
more variations, right?
right, and also to give you more variations, right? And so the Mind Flayer has a bit more lore. It talks more about the Elder Brains. It talks about the fact that most of what you'll find them with are weak-willed thralls, et cetera, et cetera. And then it gives us two new Mind Flayers. It gives us a level 20 controller, the Mind Flayer Inquisitor, and it gives us a level 21 skirmisher, the Mind Flayer Scourge. Now, the Inquisitor, is that the name of the Inquisitor? No, Infiltrator
Infiltrator.
was the level 14. So
That's right.
it's basically a whole new creature, but you're going to see some of the same kinds of powers. It has a mind blast, right? It still dazes you. It still, is able to, eat your brain, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so it has Inquisitor has implant delusions, where it can make you suffer delusions to basically make you go insane. It has Mind Blast, which damages you. It has a power called Own Worst Enemy, which basically it says each enemy in an area burst 2 within 10 squares uses one of its ranged or melee at will attack powers of the Mind Flayer's choice against itself. So it makes you attack yourself. And it also has Unwilling Confession, which you get dazed and then you cannot be healed or be affected by powers that grant like an extra saving throw. So basically, that's kind of its shorthand for you're becoming a thrall of this creature. You're not going to be doing anything of your own free will,
I
which
mean,
is really
can't be a
horrible.
target of healing powers is a huge deal in fourth because the leader class is going to lean really like all the leader classes. So
Right.
your warlord, your cleric, your
Mm-hmm.
bard, and so on are going to lean so heavily on in combat healing.
Yep. Yep.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Uh, so the thing you do about this is to grant more saves.
Right. Yep.
Uh,
Yeah.
Jumping over to the Mind Flayer Scourge, it also has, this trait, sort of like the aura that I didn't love before, except
Mm-hmm.
that this is uh, going to be a little easier to work with. It doesn't modify the player's stats.
Right.
It, changes a little bit of how you interact with this stat block, and I think that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Yep. And it's still dangerous. It's still difficult. This thing can still dominate, right? So being dominated in fourth edition is really bad. It's
Yeah.
you're out of the game basically, right?
Well,
Um,
it not only are you out of the game, you're now a danger to your allies.
you're now danger to your allies, right? And and that's really bad. It's one of those. It's so my issue is dazed and dominated are very hard to deal with in fourth edition because you're basically taking the player out of the game. And when you do that, because combat's in fourth edition, especially if you're talking about, combat with a level 21 creature, okay, everybody's going to be relatively high level PCs. This is going to be a long combat. And when you take a player out of the game for that long, it's a problem. And so my only complaint about this stat block is everybody needs to understand what could happen in this particular fight because having somebody be surprised that their PC is dominated is real bad juju. Like it's not a way to make the game more fun, right? And so it's really difficult for me. I can only speak for myself. For me, it was really difficult when you get to the sort of Paragon levels. That is the above 10 levels to deal with creatures that have dominate powers is very, very hard because I don't want to ruin the fun at the table. And so, unfortunately, I love Mind Flayers, right? But part of their power, a part of their ability set relies on being able to do things like Mind Blast and then also assault individuals and dominate them because that's what that creature's about. So it's really hard to use them effectively and not hobble them because I don't want to also ruin the fun of the PCs at the table, of the players at the table, right? So
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
why that's
you got to be willing to ruin some fun.
yeah,
You
I
got to
know.
be able to ruin some fun. Uh,
I'm just saying it has to be telegraphed appropriately that
no,
hey,
I agree.
this is in the game and it could happen,
I
right?
so I definitely agree. I think that there's a very meaningful DMing skill around, hey, look, it's okay in fourth ed and God help you in fifth ed to include some stunned save ends kind of situations.
Mm-hmm. Right,
Don't do that often. Don't do it often. Like
right,
um, power word stun and psychic scream are stupidly high level for a reason.
right.
Right? They need to be rare and be treated as some of the worst things that can happen to your characters because you're stuck for a long time. It is taking action denial to a whole new level.
Yep, yep. And so before we move on to the Monster Vault, I do want to point out that there is a Thune Hulk stat block
Yeah, that really
in
surprised me. I,
in
I sort
this
of forgot
in
about
this
this guy.
yeah. And so this is your swole illithid, right?
Yeah.
And the art for this is very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah,
um
there's some stuff going on there. This
yeah,
doesn't bother me because it's not kind of bodybuilder pose.
right, right.
That's a
It's
messed up monster. All right,
yeah,
that's
and
fine.
and when you look at it, it's like it's gross. It's a gross picture because it's forming these like almost umbilical cord like structures to
Yeah,
suck out the brain of the that person that it's basically dissolving. It's like absorbing the person, right? And that is
yeah.
just so it's gross.
I mean
It's
that's
just
that's gross.
disgusting. Yeah.
Uh,
Um and it's very aberrant and it's very disgusting, right?
yep,
And it also has Mind Blast and it is a terrifying creature. Um it's a level 22 brute and so in 4th edition a brute is meant to be like it's up in your face fighting you. It's not standing back eloquently casting spells or using psionic powers. It is in your face and it
yeah,
is attacking you and it is horrific.
yeah. He's gonna come wreck your front line. That is gonna
Right.
happen.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, these guys are pretty cool. I really appreciate that they leaned into just the what the hell happened to that dude? It is not okay.
Mm-hmm.
Visuals. That's really good.
Right.
Um,
To add to that, they actually explain it. They say the darkest legends of the Illithids speak of the dire experiments they put their slaves and captives through. Explorers of the deepest Underdark inevitably discover that these vile creatures have no compunction against performing the same experiments on their own kind. Thune hulks are the product of generations of alchemical and psychic enhancement. Their minds are dulled, their powers enhanced, and their bodies are stretched to the limits of physical endurance. A Thune Hulk is wholly obedient to the whims of its masters, but its dread transformation keeps it permanently on the brink of madness. And that's why that thing is so screwed up, because it is literally the product of experimentation that has created an even more aberrant individual than the actual illithids themselves, which is disgusting.
yeah, I mean I mean it's just really good for giving you some variety in an encounter group, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's so helpful.
Yeah.
Um, and then we get the Elder Brain.
Yep.
Um, and I know that if we went to Lords of Madness, we'd get an Elder Brain, right? Um,
Yeah, I think so. Let me go grab that up.
because
I am
there's all
pretty
kinds of great
sure.
stuff in here.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, Lords of Madness is a great book. I just didn't want to. I figured, we're gonna have a 2 hour episode anyway.
yeah. Uh, and
Um,
if we went through this, we'd get still more little varietals, right?
yeah. Yep.
And they're all pretty interesting. Um, and that's the same things happen in 5e, complementary.
Yep. Yeah, there should be. Oh, did I go too far? There's an Elder Brain here somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, you just passed it.
There
Is
we go.
Elder
Yeah.
Eidolon? Okay, yeah, yeah, there
There
we
it
go.
is. Elder Brain. Yeah, you get a lot of information about the Elder Brain.
Yeah, so that's all very cool.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a CR 25
yep,
in third edition.
and to
Uh,
level 23 elite in fourth, so
yeah.
same same.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and we don't necessarily need to go through it in detail. Just
No,
want to
no.
sort of note that they're really leaning into sending you into the Underdark to face all of this horrible nonsense and finally destroy the Elder Brain, and that's great. That's great.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
horrifying and wonderful, and I'm into it.
Yeah.
Um,
A lot more variety there. Yep.
yep.
Um, and then we get to let's talk about the Monster Vault.
Okay.
Look at the art in the Monster Vault.
Well, I feel like I've seen that guy before.
So, for those of you just listening and not watching, uh, the art that's in the D&D Monster Vault for fourth edition is the initial art from the third edition version 3.5 Monster Manual, Monster Manual 1.
Yep.
It's literally the exact same art.
Yep.
And all they did was just basically it's a copy paste, right? It's a copy
Yep.
pasta. So, um, I know likey. I would have rather them not put any art, right?
Yeah, I'm not wild about
Or
that.
or just repost the art from the first edition from the Monster Manual 1 because the tokens because in the Monster Vault it has the entry and then it shows a token. The token is using the art from the fourth edition Monster Manual 1,
Yeah.
right? But yet the actual image that they provide for the entire entry is the third edition, the one with the robes that are way too tight. And yeah, it's just a bizarre choice. And
Yeah.
we get the Mind Flayer Thrall Master, which is a level 14 elite controller.
Sure.
And we get a Mind Flayer Unseen, which is a level 18 lurker.
That's
I
pretty
think,
cool.
and then we get a Concordant Mind Flayer, which is a level 19 leader.
Huh.
They all have tentacles. They all have Enthrall Brain. They all have Mind Blast. And they have some varying. Um, oh, the Unseen one has Mind Clouding Blast. They're all sort of variations on a theme, right? We don't
Yeah.
have to necessarily go over every single entry, but it's exactly as what you would expect.
Yeah.
It has
It's
the
it's a
improved
remix of the
Monster Vault
same
stat block.
set of
Yeah,
ideas
it's
for
it's
sure.
just a remix. Yeah, yeah. So that's your fourth edition. That's your fourth edition Mind Flayer, and that leads us to the Mind Flayer from fifth edition 2024 version,
Yep.
which gets a bit of lore, a little bit of lore. It actually calls out the Githyanki and the Githzerai. Um, it talks about how they're psionic commanders. It talks about how they have hive mind colonies. Uh, it talks about how they subsist on brains, that there's an elder brain that telepathically communicates with them. Um, and so let's discuss the stat block.
Yeah. So for CR7, their 71 hit points are quite fragile. Um, it's definitely a situation where, like, losing initiative is a critically bad problem for these guys.
Hmm.
Um, by the time you're facing something CR7, um, if you're pretty close to that, um, you really might burn it down before it acts, and that'd be a real good idea.
Right.
Um, it's not immune to stun, so it's very, very monk vulnerable. Its con save is +1. Not
Right.
much.
Right.
Um, but it's got sort of detect thoughts and levitate going all the time, or at will, I should say, not actually levitating all the time. Um, and then dominate monster and plane shift once per day each. Um, and tentacles extract brain mind blast. Bing bang boom. It's got it going on. Like extract brain deals a numerical damage rather than simply being an instant kill,
A death. Yeah.
a death.
Yeah.
But
Except it does note that if you hit 0 hit points, you die rather
right,
than
right.
getting a
So
chance to
so
recover from
it's
that.
so it's +7 to hit, uh, only against a target that is already incapacitated, uh, and grappled. So it has to have uh, gotten off its mind blast, um, or its tentacles, right?
Hmm. Yep.
And you have to have failed some saves here and gotten hit. But if all those things happened, you're taking an average of 55 damage. That
Right.
is just terrifying from a
Right.
CR7. That is an
Yeah.
enormous amount of damage.
Right.
Uh, and dying instantly from 55 damage with CR7 is normal.
Yeah. And let's be clear, like a CR7 creature, you know, your PCs are probably not level 7,
I mean,
right? They could be, right? But
so
they're probably
it depends on the encounter building, right? You
right,
could
right.
definitely include this guy in
Yeah,
the rest of an encounter.
right. But you could be level 5 is my point, right?
You could be level 4 for sure, no
And
question.
and so if you're level 4 or 5 PC, think about this. You're level 4 or 5 PC and their tentacle attack is a +7 to hit, so it might hit you, right?
Oh
And it's
yeah.
going to do 2d10 plus 4 damage, which is 15 average, right? And then if you're medium size or smaller, which most PCs will be, right? Then you are grappled and your escape DC is 15. And you have to succeed on a DC 15 intelligence save or you're stunned until the thing lets you go, until it ends the grapple, right? So it's not actual like it sounds like, oh yeah, well it's going to take it a lot to get to that point where it's extracting your brain, except actually if you're a fourth or fifth level PC, it's might not be so easy to make a DC 15 intelligence save, right? And then if it hits you and you're incapacitated because you're stunned, then you're basically dead. Like that, it's, I just don't want to mislead. It's not like, oh, well, you're like 10th level, so it's going to be really difficult for this thing to get the drop on you and make you, fail 3 saves in a row before it can even attempt to eat your brain. It's like, no, it's pretty likely that
Yeah.
if you make a mistake, right, or you have a couple of bad dice rolls, you might get your brain eaten.
I mean, for the sake of completeness, I do want to say being 10th level and facing, a couple of these, a few of these and some more encounter
Mm-hmm.
stuff or whatever, that's also a completely realistic
Sure.
situation.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
if
sure.
there's two of these things throwing out mind blasts,
Hmm.
you are so hosed.
Right.
You are so hosed. Like
It,
it's a stun save ends, right?
yeah,
For a minute.
right,
You get
right.
a fresh save at the end of each of your turns, but oh my lord, that is bad.
Yeah. But again, it's a DC 15 intelligence save
That is easy to
and
fail at any level.
easy to fail. And the Mind Blast is a recharge power.
Yeah,
So it's not like it would be rare for them to get 2 or 3 of those, right?
yeah,
Depending on how long they're alive.
yeah. All you can really do with these guys is think it's only got 71 hit points. I have to burn that down.
Yeah. Yep.
Like I don't care what else is in the scene. This is your top target.
Right.
Um,
Yep. Now, the art, if we can put on our art critic hats again,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the robes are much better.
The robes are much better.
The robes are much better.
Uh, you know, there's sort of an implication of sleeves maybe, but it's not
Hmm.
it's not sort of tight wrapped sleeves on a robe somehow.
Right.
And then it's got sort of a breastplate situation.
Hmm.
Um, it's fine. I have no
It
objection to
still
that.
has the skull motif on the belt-like
That's right.
section,
Yeah,
right?
they're goth
It's
dudes. It's fine.
it's got the high collar again, right? So
They're,
goth goth genius villains, right? Okay,
yep.
we got it. It's good. Um, yeah, I don't mind the art. I don't hate it.
Um,
So that's good.
and then I'm gonna jump over to
Yep,
2024
the
and see if
2024, which I don't have access to.
yeah, I
So
got you, buddy.
yeah,
Uh,
I will point out though in the 2014
oh yeah,
there is a Mind Flayer Arcanist variant, right? Because
yep.
remember we talked about how there was a split, right? Well, here's what it says: a few Mind Flayers supplement their psionic power with arcane spells. However, they are regarded as deviants by their illithid peers, and they are usually shunned. A Mind Flayer Arcanist has a challenge rating of 8 and the following traits. It can basically cast spells like a 10th level spellcaster, right? So, and it tells you, how many slots and all that stuff. So, very interesting that they added that in, right? That's really good carry through for the other, things that we talked about in previous editions.
Yeah. All right. So in 2024 rules, uh, as you have come to expect, the core loop of the Mind Flayer is in just the same place, um, and it's picked up some more hit points. It's cruising at 99 hit points now. So burning this thing down fast is still important, but a lot harder. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and locking it down with spells is hard also because it had magic resistance then and still has it now. Um,
Yep.
they actually have a flying speed now, so
Mm.
that's another way to make it hard for um, the monk or the barbarian to just be on them and ruining them, right? They can
Interesting.
be,
Yeah.
you know, 15, 30 feet up in the air and not even close to melee to deal with you until they've mind blasted some.
Right.
So that's like it's great for rangers, right? And maybe archer rogues. It
Mm-hmm.
is a really bad situation for people who are strictly melee built or who are strictly spell built because of the magic resistance, right?
Yeah, that is a great addition to the Mind Flayer as
It's
a way to make them more mobile and
yeah.
and very and flexible. Yeah.
Um, and so it's just incredibly you know difficult to fight. It has a lot of options to go to there, and then over in the Mind Flayer Arcanist, some of the spell stuff is boiled down, but it does have a good range of options, and it has Mind Burst rather than Mind Blast, so that is an emanation rather than a cone, um,
Nice.
and Uh, oh, the stun durations are much shorter on both Mind Blast and Mind Burst
Oh,
because
what
they
are
wanted
they?
to be. So Mind Blast, it is stunned until the end of the Mind Flayer's next turn,
Okay.
uh, which
So
you know
basically one round. Yeah.
basically one round. But the tentacles then apply stunned until grapple ends,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So that's fine. And Mind Burst is also stunned until the end of the Mind Flayer's next turn. Um, but it doesn't have like its arcane tentacles work very differently. Um, its arcane tentacles do a ton of psychic damage, and if this damage reduces the target to 0 hit points, the Mind Flayer kills it and magically devours its brain. So
Mm,
it's not even breaking into your brain through, the cranium. It's just
right.
teleporting the brain straight out. That's awful. Um,
Yeah. That is pretty nasty.
uh, and it's also arcane tentacles are also good at isolating PCs for its dining pleasure. Uh, so these guys are super terrible. And then oh, there are also some other Mind Flayer stat blocks of like still higher level, more awful stuff. I'm trying to remember what the one that we fought in the Wednesday night game is. Oh, Mind Flayer Prophet maybe. Mind Flayer
Mm,
Prophet. It's CR8. That's using uh, the Wayne Reynolds ripped dude art that I
yeah.
maybe expressed opinions about. Um, but the Mind Flayer Clairvoyant is astonishingly horrible. It's challenge rating 11, but some of the stuff it can do is just unbelievably terrible with Unleash Void. Um, the Mind Flayer opens a rift into the far realm. Well, I have a problem now. That's bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and
So in
so it opens this rift that and tentacles come out of the rift and kick your ass.
Oh yeah.
And it's great.
So there's a the Eulitharid,
Uh-huh.
right? The Eulitharid is in the Book of Aberrations for third edition,
Yeah.
and it says, "Sinister and regal, this towering humanoid-shaped being stands almost 9 feet tall. Its flesh is rubbery and mauve in color, glistening with slime. It wears ornate robes that sweep the ground. Its head is octopoidal in form, with 4 short tentacles and 2 much longer ones where its mouth should be. Its eyes are blank orbs of silver white." And so the art is great
Yeah. Yeah,
for that
that absolutely
particular
rules.
Eulitharid.
Yeah.
And I think that the Eulitharid, uh, there's a fifth edition version of the Eulitharid because I think it was in Dungeon of the Mad Mage. I think it was the
That
main
seems
boss
very likely, yeah.
on one of the.
It's in Monsters of the Multiverse.
Is it okay?
It's also in Volos. So yeah. And this is great. The art rules. It's messed up. Um, it's sort of crossed over into just, oh, you're a hentai monster. Sure. Okay.
Right.
Those tentacles are too friendly.
Yeah. So my point really is that you know, there are so many different things you can do with mind flayers and their lore and the possible variants of
Yep.
them. I mean,
Right. And we haven't touched on Alhoons, the Illith
right.
leeches at any point in here, but they're found throughout, right? So in second ed, they appear in Menzo Bronzen, the box set. Um,
Hmm.
in third ed, they appear in Lords of Madness. In fourth ed, they appear in Open Grave, and in fifth ed, they're in Volo's Guide to Monsters.
Oh,
And
open grave. I didn't even bother to open that up and look at it. Huh.
so, it's just a whole different way to be a horrible heretic as a
Right.
illithid, right? Um, and just to be maximally confusing at any gaming table, whenever I'm talking about these as my character, because I'm playing a Githyanki, right? I'm
Mm,
using the canonical Githyanki terms for all of these things.
right.
They're
Nice.
the hated Gaik. Um, like everyone at the tables played Baldur's Gate 3, so they know what I'm talking about. But um, just let's get as many terms floating around as possible. It
Right.
makes me so happy because it's just like celebrating the really very good, consistent writing that's been done about this villain in particular. Um, like what I want to say in conclusion is that not many uh, D&D villains have seen this consistently enjoyable of a design, right?
Yep.
Um, I don't think
Here's
I think we're sort of at all hits no misses
hmm
um, for you know edition over edition presentation. Some specific stat blocks were more exciting than others, but not by a lot. They're all pretty consistent in what they're trying to do, and they all
right.
get done pretty
Yep.
well.
Here's the Eulitharid from
There you
Dungeon of
go.
the Mad Mage.
Yeah,
Um, very traditional, super powerful Illithid.
yeah, and
Um,
it's doing a lot of the same stuff still. Tentacles
yep.
extract brain mind blast, but it
Yep.
also has some additional senses. It's a psionic hub, and it's got a whole pile of psionics going on.
Yep. Yep.
And
Very, very formidable.
yeah,
Yeah.
and its psionic power options are pretty uneven because
Hmm.
secretly Eyebite is a terrible spell in 5e. It's just
I'm sure.
really, really
Yeah.
bad. Um, uh, and yeah, so it's kind of leaning a lot on the DM to make good decisions to turn this
Right.
into a fun encounter. But
Yeah.
127 hit points is pretty respectable at ninth level. The AC is nothing great, but
Right.
the magic resistance is a whole problem. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good fun fight.
Yeah. No, I think these are some of the most fun creatures. So here's the thing. They're so fun and you can have so many different variations of them. And we have seen many different variations of them across the editions, right? And for some reason they're just almost imminently expandable. The problem is when you imagine that city of illithids, it's like okay, nope, turn around. That image, that gif of the octopus running away, going nope, 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 nope. That's what the
Right.
PC should be doing
Yeah. Yeah.
when
Yeah.
they discover, this underground city of illithids, which by the time they discover it, it's probably too late. They're going to be thralls anyway. But that's, like it is these creatures consistently through pretty much all the editions and all the variations of them are so dangerous.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
amazing.
right. Like the whole vibe that my Githyanki character has toward Mind Flayers is like, yeah, I'm I've had lots of amazing adventures, and you know, I matter as a character, and I will throw it all away in an instant if it means dragging some of the Mind Flayers out of this world. Let's go.
Right. Yep.
Just like the absolute hatred that the Githyanki and the Githzerai have for Mind Flayers. It's the only thing they agree on,
Right.
right?
Yeah, right. Yep, exactly. Yep. It's the literally only thing they agree on. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that's a set of good last words for
Yeah,
this episode.
I think that wraps it.
Yeah. Where can people find you on the internet?
Well, you can find me on the Tome Show Discord. You can find me on Blue Sky, brandastoddard.bsky.social. My blog is Brandis Stoddard, and my Patreon is Brandis Stoddard. It's brandastoddard.com for my blog. I didn't have to share with a lot of other people named that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
And how about you, Sam?
Well, you can find me on rpgmusings.com and also on the Tome Show Discord. I am DM Samuel on most of the social medias. I'm not on there a lot, but if you ping me, I'll eventually figure it out and will respond to you, I promise. And with that, I think we're going to say good evening and watch out for those tentacly faced bastards.
Are we doing politics on the episode now?